you wouldn't just know that I was near tears over getting a camera on a tripod. That's how you know that social media is fake. You wouldn't know that unless I didn't tell you. Okay, hello guys. We are upon, I can already see the comments of people saying like, it's not fall yet, it still, listen. To me, it is fall. I am in the fall mood. I can't wait for the weather to get to that crisp autumn breeze. If you've been following along with me for the past few weeks on vlogs, on podcasts, literally everything, I can't stop talking about fall and how excited I am. So I have brought you guys to this video if you guys are like me. So in this video, I am going to first take you guys through all of my recommendations for fall reads, books that I've read that I feel like are very good for the fall backdrop. And the second part of this video is going to be my fall TBR that doesn't include fantasy books. So you're not going to see any fantasy books in this video because the next upload that's going to be on my channel is my fall recommendations and my fall TBR just for fantasy books, because I went book shopping the other day and I literally bought so many fantasy books because when it's the fall specifically, but also the winter time, I am just in a fantasy mood. So get excited for that video. I've got a few comments of people being like, can you give us some fantasy fall recommendations? And that's coming, but I thought it would be good to just separate that all on its own. So these are all like romances, literary fiction, and thrillers, some YAs thrown in there, but that's kind of like the genres we're going with today. Buckle in. First off, I'm going to talk to you guys about all of the books that I have read that I feel like are going to make very good fall reads. Some of them may take place in the fall, some of them don't, but I just feel like are really good to read in the season. So let's get into it. Also, this isn't an alcoholic beverage because I feel like this can kind of look like one, but this is just an accelerator energy drink. Should I blur it out? Like, no free promotion? Should I be that? Should I like be that? I'm running on an energy drink. I'm a little bit delusional and I kind of hate the way I look. I don't know what type of vibe we're going to be getting from today's video. I'm literally hoping and praying that the audio is going to be good with this because I was using this microphone in my Bookish Would You Rather video and like it started messing up, but I don't know if that was something with my car or if that was something with the microphone. So please, dear God, don't let it be something with the microphone. Anyway, let's get into the books that I've read and I recommend for fall. But first up with a good little romance book, I feel like this and a few other ones, this is perfect for fall. So this is The Dead Romantics. Now I read this last year in the fall time and I just loved it. The premise of this book is basically you have the main character Florence and she has to go back to her hometown. She lives in New York City and she has to go back to her hometown because of an event that happened. She had to leave her hometown because she could essentially see dead people and kind of like talk to dead people and people thought she was weird, and so she had to leave town and she doesn't want to go back to this house because I think her parents own a funeral home and the house is like a funeral home and she like got ridiculed and she doesn't want to go back, but she has to go back and she sees this guy and the guy doesn't really know like how he died and they're trying to figure out this mystery together. It is just so good. I loved this book so much. I remember even crying with this book. Like I remember sitting in my living room just absolutely devouring it in one sitting, and I feel like this author in specifics is really good with that because I've read 2 of their books now and I have enjoyed both of them heavily. Also, just while we're on the topic, I do want to say The 7-Year Slit by Ashley Pawson as well. This is the same author as The Dead Romantics and this is the book that I read in August and it is just so good. This is about Clementine and she lives in New York City and just the backdrop of New York City is so magical in this book, but also there are magical elements because she lives in her aunt's apartment and her aunt were very close, and all growing up her aunt told her these like tall tales of this apartment and how it was magical. She doesn't really believe it. She's kind of grown up and grown out of it and she's kind of at this crossroads in her life and she goes into her apartment one day and there's a man in her apartment and she kind of freaks out and she notices that the apartment is set back 7 years in the past. She also works in a publishing company, so it was interesting to see the publishing company side of it, the romance of it, but also just like talking about her aunt. There's talks of like mental health and just everything about it was just felt like a warm hug. I actually gave this book a 4.5, 4.75. I really loved it. This one's a little random. Also, I have the older cover of this book and I feel like I never talk about this book. I also try to reach for books off the shelf so that I feel like I don't talk about a whole lot. So we have Marriage for One by Ella Mays. This book doesn't take place in the fall, but I feel like you could also read this in the winter time, but I feel like this is also just like a cozy romance for the fall. You wouldn't get that vibe from this cover, like this man just like growling at you essentially. I'm sorry for that. The main characters' names are literally Jack and Rose, like from the Titanic. But basically, from what I can remember, Rose has this like rich uncle or something. And in their little agreement where she just basically wants to run a coffee shop. And in the agreement, she has to be married. And so Jack propositions her and is like, we can get fake married so that you can have the coffee shop in the building and I can own the rest of the building. And they just strike up a deal because she really, her dream is to have this coffee shop. And I feel like the coziness of reading about her like remodeling this coffee shop and seeing, pretty sure this is dual POV from what I can remember, and just seeing their interactions and then fall into love. It was just very cozy and I really, really liked it. Next I have Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. Now this is a past and present point of view type of book. This also takes place in New York City in the 90s. I'm pretty sure it was the 90s, and it is about these two people and they went to NYU and they kind of crossed paths, and it's basically a story about their relationship, and you get this past and present point of view, how they don't talk in the present and kind of what happened in the past. You spend most of the book in the past, which I really, really liked and enjoyed, and then the end of the book you kind of get this closure feeling, and I just really loved it. I feel like for me, fall in New York just correlates so heavily, so there's a lot of books I'm going to recommend that take place in New York. These two books are from the same author, and they are so much fun in the fall time, specifically in October. Like, I would tell you guys to save these books for October, and that is the X Hex and the Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. Wow, oh my gosh, I remember I read the X Hex on Halloween in 2021? Yeah, that was 2021. Wow, that feels like a lifetime ago. And it was just the perfect book. This one's about Vivi, and she lives, where do they live? Where's the town at? Georgia. It's in Georgia. But it literally feels like Halloween Town the way that it's described. Like, it is the perfect read for October. They're just so easy. They are witches, but it's like a cute little witchy book where they have the cute little magic, and basically there's something going on inside of the town and she has to figure out like what's going on. And this guy who was her ex-boyfriend, and they had this kind of like messy breakup, shows back up in town because his family's like very prominent in the town and they have to work together. It is just so cute and just such a fast, easy read, and it's perfect for the October backdrop. Same thing with the Kiss Curse. I feel like I loved them equally. The Kiss Curse is about her cousin, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're cousins. And with this one, it's also the cousin. So it's Vivi's cousin, and then the guy from this book, it's his brother. So this one is so cute because they are opening the same type of stores, and their stores are like rivaling each other. And so they're kind of going back and forth with this rivalry inside of the same cute Halloween Town type of town. It is the cutest backdrop. I'm telling you guys, these are books that you need to read during October. Next up, if you're wanting a little bit more of a heavier, darker type of romance, we have Bittersweet Memories. Now this is a book that I really, really like, and I feel like I never talk about, but when I remember this book, I want to talk about it. So with this book, you are getting a past and present point of view, and basically the main girl and guy have this very strong relationship, and there's an event that happens and it's like years in the future and they don't talk and they cross paths again. You learn like the first half of the book, like how they met and how they have this super close relationship, and then you go into the present point of view for the second half of the book. There was something about it. I remember literally, and there's a few books that do this to me because I love my beauty rest. I love it. And so there are very few books that can get me to stay up all night until I finish it, and this was one of them. I don't know what it was about it. I was just so enthralled, and I don't have a super specific reasoning why this feels a fall vibe, but it just is to me. Next up, this is one of my favorite books ever, and I actually plan on rereading this in September, October. I'm pretty sure there's like a few events that happen in the fall time in this book, and it's just such a cozy rom-com. It is so funny and quirky and cute in so many different ways, and that is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hochul. This is about two fiancés, Naomi and Nicholas, and basically you learn that they are at this standstill point in their relationship. They're engaged, but neither one of them wants to get married, but neither one of them wants to call off the wedding. They start like pranking each other to get the other one to back out of the marriage, and it sounds like Question mark. And trust me, a few years ago when I heard that premise, I was like, I don't know about this. But I love this book. I have told you guys that one of my favorite things in life, and just in books as well, is like the little things when somebody remembers the littlest, tiniest things about you, like down to how you like your coffee in the morning, or just something that you've mentioned in an offhand comment, and they remember it and they like do those things for you. That is how this book is. There are so many cute moments, and I want to reread and annotate this fall so you guys can do it with me. I want this to be a book club pick. By the way, talking about my book club, I have a book club in the Discord. The Discord is always down below. It's called We Read That, and every month we pick different books and we have little channels. We also have like a bunch of different channels for you guys to chat in. It is basically an area for you guys to just have a bookish community on your own. I have a few Abby Jimenez books because I love Abby Jimenez's books. If you were wanting a nice romance that is just like gonna make you laugh, they're just so like a breath of fresh air. They're so funny, they're so quirky, they're everything. I would 100% recommend Abby Jimenez. First of all, we have Part of Your World. Now this one is a small town romance, and the girl is like a doctor. She's very smart. She kind of breaks down on the side of the road in this small town. This guy helps her. They spark it off. They share a night together. She goes back and she just can't stop thinking about him, so she goes back and forth from the small town. There's things going on in her personal life. It is so good. Oh my gosh, I loved this book, and I feel like small town vibes go so well with fall for some reason. And then we have Life's Too Short. Now, I read this. This one is so cute because this one's about an influencer. And you guys know that I don't like when like social media is brought up, or like influencers, because sometimes I feel like authors just don't get it and they're writing it from like an outsider's point of view, and it just doesn't feel realistic and it can feel cringy at times. This one did not. It was so cute. They're like neighbor. She comes over, she helps him with the dog. They help each other. They're there for each other. There's other things going on in the books. That's the thing about Abby Jimenez. There's always a strong romance, but there's always like a lesson to be learned on the inside, and like talking about a different thing that's going on as well. And I always appreciate what's like as a backdrop of the book. And then we have Yours Truly. Now this is genuinely one of my favorite books of the year. I just love it. It is about two doctors. Jacob is literally me. I have never felt more represented in a character. He struggles with anxiety, and basically him and Brianna like meet off on bad terms, and you start to learn like more about him, and they start to have this friendship that builds, and he is just one of the best guys that I've literally ever read in a romance before. Like he is just so like, I don't know, like you just want to protect him, okay? And it is just so cozy. I also love the representation in this book of being in a relationship with somebody with like chronic anxiety. And then we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book ever, and I feel like with this book specifically, maybe it's just the vibes that the cover are giving off, I feel like this has such cozy vibes. And with Ali Hazelwood's books, I feel like they're like no brain power. You can just like get through them, and they're just so cute. They're so enjoyable. There's so many swoon worthy moments. This one's about Elsie and Jack, and Elsie has this career on the side where she basically like fake dates people, and then Jack is the guy that she's fake dating's brother, and they automatically don't like each other when they first meet, and then they have to start crossing these lines within their workplace. It was so good. I have a 24-hour reading video where I read this book. I just love it, and I feel like Ali Hazelwood's books, any of them are so cozy, but specifically this one I just really love. Next up we have The Wall of Winnipegany by Mariana Zapata. This one's a thick one. If you guys know Mariana Zapata, her books are notoriously famous for being slow burn and very long. So if that's not your cup of tea, you won't like these. Like, I'm talking about slow burn. Like, there's not a little like, oh, once we're 50% through. No. You're trucking through like 70 to 80% through, okay? But I just have loved every single one of the books that I've read by her. But this one I feel like is really good for fall because it's about a football player, and football is during the fall time here in America. Next up, we have The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Now, this one is one that I just like never think, like, I never feel like I talk about this book, but I really, really enjoyed it when I read it. This is about Kala, and she has to go back to a very, very tiny, teeny tiny small town in Alaska to reunite with her dad. There's something going on with her dad. She has to reunite with him, and she meets Jonah, who is the pilot around there, and he's super grumpy, and he has been like around her dad for years because I'm pretty sure her dad's a pilot. So him and her don't really get along, But again, small towns, I feel like Alaska, I don't know, like I feel like you can read this book in the winter, but I really recommend it for the fall. Just a few more romances and then we're gonna go into some literary fiction, YA, and thriller. Well, first of all, I would recommend the Maidens series by Devney Perry. This is again a small town romance vibe, and I haven't continued reading the rest of the books yet, but I do want to read the rest of them. What I like about these books is that there's a strong romance, but there's always like a subplot of something else going on. Like in this first book, she's a cop and I think he just lives in the small town. Like she's the chief of police and he just lives in the small town, but there's this like subplot of mystery going on. And then this one, he's a chef at the like famous hotel in the town, and she gets hired to be like the maid around the hotel. It is just so good. I just love small town romances. Okay, let's talk about some literary fiction really quick. Would you believe that I'm recommending you some Sally Rooney? Listen, I am not a huge fan of Sally Rooney. Honestly, I think I'm gonna stay away from their books. In the future, I've read every single one of them because I went through a phase when I first started getting back into reading where I was like, I need to read Sally Rooney to be a real reader. Like, I don't know why I'm doing a British accent. Like, I actually don't. But I just had this moment where I thought, like, I'm not a real reader unless I read Sally Rooney. And then I tried to fake that I liked it, and I didn't. But it's one of those things where I can acknowledge why someone would love their books. Like, I get it. So with normal people, this is about two people whose lives keep on like intersecting, but they just kind of like are never at the right place at the right time. So if you love pain, here you go, and also praying for you. But then also with Conversation with Friends, it's that kind of same theme where it's about these two best friends who befriend this married couple, and one of them starts essentially having an affair with the man, and you are just reading about it. Billy Summers by Stephen King. This is a more like, I think this is technically like a crime novel, I think is what it's like technically described as. But I read this in the summertime, but I feel like it's so good for the fall. Not just because of the cover, but I do feel like the cover gives great fall vibes as well. With this book, it is about a professional like assassin. Is that what? He's a killer for hire. Is that what you call it? An assassin? And he takes his last job and stuff just starts going down. Once you get into Stephen King, I would recommend this one as a good first book to get in, especially if you don't love horror, because that's like what he's notoriously known for. And then if you guys love pain and don't care about the trigger warnings, you can always read A Little Life. Listen, this is one of my 5-star books. It has such a special place in my heart, but I never recommend it because there are so many trigger warnings. Like basically every single trigger that you can imagine is in this book. You're following these 4 friends and they live in New York, and you're just following them throughout their whole entire lives. You love them, you hate them, you feel heartbroken for them, you feel happy for them at so many different points, and they feel like real people. Such a wonderful feeling to feel so emotionally connected to like fictional characters, but this book is so painful. Okay, I think we can start talking about some YA. So, first and foremost, we have the Inheritance Game trilogy. If you are wanting a fast-paced, short chapter, mystery read with a love triangle, and you haven't yet picked up the Inheritance Game trilogy, what are you doing? This, like, took the world by storm. I feel like for the past, like, year and a half, 2 years, everyone's been talking about the Inheritance Games. It's, like, one of the most hyped-up book talk books. And for good reasoning, these are just so enjoyable, and they're so fast to get through that makes it even better. On that same exact vibe, we have the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes because it's by the same author. So again, fast-paced, short chapters, super entertaining, but I love this one over the Inheritance Games. This is my favorite one. So this is about teenagers who work for the FBI because they have these like super special talents. Like 2 of them are like profilers. They can get into serial killers' minds and understand like the inner workings of them. One of them really good with numbers. The other one can detect lies, and the other one can detect emotions. Like they're very good tools and assets for the FBI. But so they live in this house together. It's very much found family. You get so emotionally connected with all of the characters in such a short amount of time. Every book kind of dives into a separate character and you learn a lot about them. I just love them. Like they are just so good, so entertaining, and with this one I just felt way more connected to the characters and I cared about them. Just amazing. Okay, so believe it or not, this is YA, and that is There's Someone Inside Your House. Now this is a YA book, but it's a thriller. If you love slasher films like I do, especially in the fall time, I would 100% recommend this one. This one is about a girl and she basically moves from Hawaii to this small town with her grandma. She goes to this high school where kids start getting brutally murdered. Like, honestly, when I read this book, I was so surprised that it was a YA book because the way that they describe these murders and everything is like gnarly. I was so disappointed like with the movie that came out of this. I was so excited to see it, and then they butchered it. We're starting to get into the thrillers, but we're in the YA. So first of all, we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I feel like if you're somebody who wants to get into thrillers, but you're kind of like not good with like the thrilling aspect of it, or like the very like goriness of it, or just like the scariness of it all, I would recommend A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series because I feel like since they are YA, they don't go too deep into things, and it's super entertaining. It's about this girl Pip, and she has this podcast where she's basically trying to solve mysteries that are all throughout the town, and she like goes in deep dives into them throughout the whole entire series. I just feel like they're such entertaining, again, short, fast, easy reads, and if you're wanting to read a thriller but like not something that's super intimidating and very scary, these are 100% the way to go. Okay, next up is another YA book that I read last year during the fall time and I absolutely loved. This was Dead Flip. This takes place in the 80s and I love the 80s, okay? I love the 70s, I love the 80s, that time period. Oh my gosh, and this book just put me directly there. This book is about a group of friends, and one of their friends went missing years ago. And they don't know like what happened to him, but then years later he appears because of this evil magic pinball machine. I read None Shall Sleep when I was in high school, and the second book to this like just came out and I have it on my TBR. But this one is kind of the same vibe as The Naturals, so if you've read The Naturals and want something similar, I would recommend None Shall Sleep. This is again another girl who gets basically recruited by the FBI to help them out with this investigation because I'm pretty sure she had been almost killed by a serial killer before, so they know that she knows how to like do the inner workings of it. And her and this guy get hired to like help the FBI, and they're trying to solve the serial murders together essentially. And again, if you like the Natural series, this is giving the same vibe. Okay, now we're getting into what I call grown-up thrillers. These are not YA, they're a little bit more thrilling, a little bit more like heavy. First of all, we have, I think, the only 5-star thriller that I rated this year, The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I just think any thriller is a really good backdrop for the fall time. This is about Emma, and she is like house sitting this house in a beach town, and you don't really know like why she's alone, why she's there, but there's like stuff that you need to learn about her. What happens is that she reads this book on her Kindle and she rates it a 1 star and leaves like this big 1-star review, and the author starts stalking her to kill her. My worst nightmare. When I rated a book 1 stars after reading this book, I've been genuinely scared for my life. If you're wanting like a dark academia meets thriller, I would recommend The Maidens. This is very much dark academia. It takes place on a college campus that is giving very much like Yale, Harvard. Actually, is it Harvard? Cambridge. Okay, I'm an idiot, like actually. So it's about this woman, and she has this niece. She has like a niece or something that goes to the school, and there is this professor there that has this obsession with like a group of girls, and she's convinced that he's a murderer. And they talk heavily about like Greek mythology, I think, and things like of that essence. So if that's something that appeals to you, 100% recommend this one. And then I have 2 Riley Sager books. So first of all, we have Final Girls. Again, if you like a slasher film type of vibe with your thrillers, 100% Final Girls by Riley Sager. I have said this multiple times, but me and Riley Sager kind of have like a hit or miss with his books, but this one was one of the first that I ever read by him. And I remember going down a rabbit hole after I'd read this one, like I wanted to read a bunch by him. But this one I really liked because it is about like this group of girls who survived like these big like murders, and they slowly but surely start to like fall off the map, if you know what I'm saying. The House Across the Lake, I really liked by Riley Sager. This one is about a woman, and she lives in this house where she can see the house across the lake that is like full of just glass windows, and she is suspecting the husband of being a little suspect because she thinks that he murdered his wife. And that's what I will leave you with. So I'm pretty sure that is every single book that I have read that I recommend you guys read this fall. Very quickly, I'm going to take you guys through my fall TBR of books that I have on my radar for fall. Am I going to read all of these? In a perfect world, yeah. But in a realistic one, which is what I live in, sometimes. Sometimes my delusions do get the best of me, but in this realistic world, probably not. This one's a stretch, because if I thought I was dumb reading Red Rising, I feel like I would feel stupid reading this book. But we have Project Hail Mary, and this book is just so widely respected and loved, and I just need to know why. Like, I need to know, and so I just feel like it is perfect for fall. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I don't know what it's about. And I kind of want to keep it that way. Next up is The Humans by Matt Haig. This is the author of The Midnight Library, and when I read that in high school, that book kind of changed my life. This one, I think it's just like a bunch of like short stories about a bunch of different humans. Then we have The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is really like the last Riley Sager book that he has on his like catalog that I kind of want to read. This one takes place at a summer camp, and basically this girl used to always go to the summer camp, but then one night like her best friend that went there went missing, and the last thing she remembers is the girl like shushing her in the middle of the night, and she has to go back to the summer camp because she gets offered a job there. Stuff starts to go awry. Okay, on that same kind of topic of a thriller, we have The Stranger Upstairs. This is about like a famous blogger who buys this haunted house to renovate it, and I assume things start to go a little crazy. Not even 300 pages, so I feel like this could also just be like a super fast read. Okay, then we have this book. This is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. First of all, look at this cover. Is this not giving you absolute fall vibes? And this one's kind of like I hate you to lover, because it literally says when Ari and Josh first meet, the wrong kind of sparks fly, they hate each other instantly. I don't need to know a whole lot more than that. This one I'm super excited for, because like with the X Hex and the Kiss Curse, I just love like those type of entertaining reads where it's like, is it going to be my favorite book ever? No, but it's perfect for the landscape that we're in and the backdrop of the season. So that's what I feel about this one. This is Small Town Big Magic. This is about a girl who is like the head of like this, what is it? She's the youngest Chamber of Commerce president, successful indie bookstore owner, and lucky enough to have her best friends as found family. And then basically one day she gets attacked by these like mythical magical creatures, and she finds out that everybody in the town, all of her best friends are witches, and she's a witch, but she failed this magic test, which when she failed it, it erased her memory of like magic being real. So she's trying to figure her life out, and she's also getting the help of her childhood best friend, the grumpy farmer. Put my name on it, I'm there. Next up we have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. First of all, just the absolute illustrations that are so beautiful within these books. I don't even know, like they're just so beautiful. Viola is a real estate agent and a vampire, but her problem is the house she needs to sell is haunted, so she calls Fox, who's a medium, even though he's like a fraud. But he isn't entirely without his uses, seeing as he's actually the godson of death. And then there are just like some other people, like some just wacky, I don't know, I feel like it could be fun. Next up we have my first Agatha Christie book, that is Halloween Party. This is basically just like a murder mystery novel. That's like what all of Agatha Christie's books are, and I feel like this one's a perfect one to start with because it literally is like a young girl gets murdered at a Halloween party. Okay, next up we have just another cute little romance that I feel like it's good for the season. My Roommate is a Vampire. A girl goes and rents this apartment out in Chicago, and the guy next door like sleeps all day, goes to work at night, and he talks like very Victorian style, and she's convinced that he's a vampire. Next, we have Truly Devious. Now, this one is like a dark academia, but it's YA. I'm pretty sure it takes place at a boarding school, and there is like murders going on that the main character is trying to figure out. Dark academia season is upon us, and I will be making a dark academia themed video, so just wait for that and get excited. Okay, so we have a few books that kind of correlate with that on my TBR. So we have If We Were Villains by ML Rio, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, Donna Tartt's The Secret History, and we also have Circe, which I don't think is dark academia. It's not, but I just had it in the stack. But these are dark academia, so of course these are on my TBR. Then for a memoir, I have Educated. I have heard outstanding things about this memoir, and so I am very intrigued. On the memoir train, I'm actually almost done with this one, but that is Just Kids by Patti Smith. Again, this book, they live in New York throughout like the whole entire book, and as I've been listening to it, I just feel like it's the perfect, like the leaves are orange, they're rustling, maybe there's a little bit of a drizzle outside, and just like reading / listening to this book. Perfect. For a little romance, we have Love in the Time of Serial Killers. This is like a girl who reads a lot of true crime novels, and she's convinced that her neighbor is a serial killer. Those are all of the books that I have on my TBR and the books I recommend. hopefully you guys got either some new books to buy, some new books to read, maybe motivated to read some books on your shelf. Whatever it may be, I hope you enjoyed. If you guys did, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff you guys know how to do. I can't wait for fall. It's genuinely my favorite season to live through and read in. So I am so hyped. I hope you guys are too. And with that being said, I will see you guys when I see ya. Peace.